One in the valley where the Chongming Hall's secret realm was located, the mountain was broken into pieces. After several intense battles, the mountain rocks were shattered, as if it had been overturned. Damn it! We let them escape, Shen Shuihui cursed angrily. He slammed his fist heavily onto the ground, venting the anger in his heart. In an instant, a spider-web-like crack appeared on the ground. Xiao Yan helped Wu Shaoqi up. A vast and destructive qi was unleashed. It was as if he had suffered a heavy blow. His face was extremely pale. His body, which was already injured, was now in unbearable pain. Looking at the furious Shen Shuihui, Xiao Yan secretly sighed. As expected, the 9 disciples couldn't be left behind so easily. He thought. Xiao Yan raised his head and saw the Xiaoao baring its teeth as it got up from the ruins. Luckily, it wasn't seriously injured. Shi Na was safe and sound with the protection of her grandmaster. The two of them stood up from the rubble. The former protected Mi Ning's body tightly. On her pretty face, the former protected Mi Ning's body tightly. There were still 2 lines of tears. Grandma Shi shook her head and did not say anything as her eyes dimmed. The people of Bright Divine Domain, who were the closest to Kai He Lai, didn't have such luck. Although the 9 disciples only had the strength of a heavenly sovereign, the vastness of the origin qi in their bodies was far greater than theirs. Including Commander In, a total of 11 people had fainted. As a dignified heavenly sovereign, they didn't have the slightest bit of defensive power. This caused Xiao Yan's eyelids to twitch. He now had a deeper understanding of the strength of the 9 disciples. In the horizon, the huge golden hand dispersed. As the sky shattered, a white figure stepped out. The old man had a sage-like appearance, and his face was thin. There was a faint golden light surrounding his body, making it impossible to see his face clearly. "What took you so long to come here?" Shen Shuihui gritted his teeth and spoke fiercely when he saw the white-robed old man. "Young master." The old man smiled helplessly. His eyes swept across the people below and appeared in front of Shen Shuihui with a step. His aura was so strong that it caused one to suffocate. It was like an immeasurable abyss. The appearance of the soul demon will definitely attract the attention of many experts from the Mingan divine domain. The region lord has said that the matter of the soul demon cannot be known by the world for the time being. In order to cover up the truth, I have come all the way here and I have no choice but to delay. Is this the Supreme Saint? Wu Shaoqi whispered into Xiao Yan's ear. She looked at the white-robed old man as if she was facing an unreachable mountain. The huge gap between them made her heart palpitate and her legs couldn't help but tremble. Maybe. Xiao Yan took a deep breath. He mumbled to himself. With the prestige power spell, he naturally didn't feel anything special about the terrifying origin qi that was flowing out of the old man's body. However, the majestic qi that had merged into his bones could still make him feel it. As for whether he had reached the Supreme Saint level, it was impossible to tell just by observing him. Forget it. They have also gone far away. The soul demon is plotting something big. I don't think they will appear in Mingan divine domain for the time being. Shen Suyu's expression was ugly. He pointed to the distance and said without any emotion, "Commander In and the others are injured. Take them away first. Don't worry about me." "All right." The old man in white nodded. His deep gaze swept across the people present. He paused for a moment on Xiao Yan, then moved away. When he saw Grandma Shi, he couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Just as she was about to speak, Grandma Shi smiled bitterly. She clasped hands toward the old man and said nothing. When the old man saw this, he nodded slightly and the space in front of him split open. He stepped in and disappeared. Following him were the people from Bright Divine Domain who came with Shen Shuihui. This guy is really smart. He talked to that old man like that. After the old man left, Wu Shaoqi couldn't help but speak in a soft voice beside Xiao Yan's ear. "Didn't you hear that? He is the young master of Bright Divine Domain. He has such a powerful father. What does he want to do?" Before Xiao Yan could speak, the Xiaoao's voice rang out, carrying a hint of helplessness. Comparisons between people could only anger one to death. This kind of natural advantage, other people could only sigh. Hearing this, Wu Shaoqi could not help but stick out her tongue. Immediately, she gritted her silver teeth and flew in the direction of Grandma Shi. Only now did she understand why Mi Ning had such a huge change. That damn soul demon. The world is going to change. Shen Shuihui was the first to speak after a moment of silence. He stood in the void with his arms crossed in front of his chest. His expression was cold and he had a natural pride. It has changed. Xiao Yan glanced at him and spoke slowly. Both of them knew that the appearance of the soul demon indicated that the peaceful days would never come back. You haven't experienced the ancient era, so you won't know how terrifying they are. That is an era where life is worse than death. Shen Shuiwei turned around and stared into Xiao Yan's eyes. He gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with hatred and anger. Your opponent is a senior that you are familiar with. Those fellows have revived the corpses of many ancient experts. They have brought endless disasters to this world. Who? Xiao Yan took a deep breath. In one breath, he roughly knew some of the techniques of the 9 disciples. This technique was even more terrifying and unimaginable, able to revive the dead for his own use. No wonder, with the pitiful number of soul demon tribes, they had the confidence to face all the experts of the great world. I heard them mention that the battle domain wasn't peaceful for a period of time. A soul demon king has appeared. Adding this, there are already 4 of the 9 disciples of the soul demon. Suppressing his emotions, Shen Shuiwei sighed. As confident as he was, his heart felt as heavy as a mountain when he talked about the soul demon. So they went to battle domain. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded his head secretly. These guys were running around everywhere in the great world. Every place they went would cause endless trouble. It wasn't an exaggeration to call them cancer. I'm only telling you all of this on a whim today. I didn't expect to meet you here. Shaking his head, Shen Shuiwei changed the topic. His eyes swept across Xiao Yan and grinned. I haven't seen you for a while. Your strength has increased quite quickly. This speed made me blush with shame. In your eyes, it can only be considered normal. Xiao Yan chuckled and met Shen Suyu's gaze without dodging. You can't say that either. If this continues, perhaps the next time we meet, I will be able to be my opponent. After saying that, a trace of killing intent flashed across Shen Suyu's eyes. He licked his lips and said, Xiao Yan, if this was in the ancient times, my favorite thing to do would be to kill a Heaven's Pride expert with my own hands. However, it's not the time now. The soul demon has reappeared, and all the saints have withered away. We are the only ones who can fight them. Therefore, the growth of your strength is beneficial to us as well. Fighting against the soul demon, can you only rely on your arrogance? The Xiao Ao was the first to speak, and he spoke in a sarcastic tone. He was extremely disdainful towards the arrogance that Shen Shuiwei had shown. Whatever you say, in order to deal with the soul demon, the necessary sacrifices are unavoidable. Even if it's the Azure Dragon's bloodline, there's nothing to pity about it. Shen Suyu's cold gaze swept across the Xiao Ao. The corner of his mouth curled up, showing no expression. That arrogant fellow will die even faster. The Xiao Ao exchanged glances with each other. When they thought about what happened in the Heaven Divine Mountain, they found Shen Shuiwei even more unpleasant to the eye. All right. Seeing the two of them mocking each other, Xiao Yan couldn't help but have a headache. He hurriedly comforted the Xiao Ao. Because of what happened tonight, his heart was filled with complicated feelings, and he didn't have the mood to talk to Shen Shuiwei. That's all I have to say. You two, take care of yourselves. Shen Shuiwei turned around. His voice had just sounded when he stepped into the sky and disappeared into the night sky. He left behind a dilapidated valley, as if he had experienced an unimaginable battle. The night was quiet and everyone was silent. After a long time, Shi Na's soft sobs could be heard and then turned into whimpers. The sad and beautiful sound was heartbreaking. I should have thought of this earlier. Mi Ning's personality has changed. There must be a reason. Grandma Shi seemed to have aged a lot. There was a trace of tears at the corner of her eyes. She looked at Mi Ning, who had lost his breath, as if she had lost all her strength. Wu Shaoqi gently wiped her tears. When she saw Shi Na's heartbroken look, she felt even more uncomfortable. A shattering sound was transmitted by her ear. Xiao Yan and the Xiao Ao had also come. Both of them were silent. For a moment, the air had solidified a little. What happened here will sooner or later alarm the other major powers. At that time, there will be people who will harbor ill intentions towards the Chongming Hall. Mi Ning will die for me, and the Chongming Hall will also be in danger. After a long time, Grandma Shi spoke with a heavy tone. As the palace master, now was not the time for her to be sad. She was thinking more about the future of the Chongming Hall. Whoever dares to come, just kill them. Shi Na suddenly raised her head. A strong killing intent flashed across her beautiful face. Mi Ning's death had dealt a huge blow to her, but after recovering from the blow, it had also changed her mind greatly. Sister Shi is right. We are not pushovers who can be needed by others. Wu Shaoqi nodded without hesitation, and a wave of anger surged in her heart. Xiao Yan, what do you think? All the elders of Chongming Hall have suffered serious injuries. At this time, it would be better to keep a low profile. Grandma Shi turned her eyes to Xiao Yan and said slowly. Hearing this, Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly felt two cold gazes staring at him. Shi Na was at the side and her pretty face was covered with ice. Wu Shaoqi's eyes were lowered, clearly expressing her attitude. Senior is right. At this time, we really need to conceal our strength and bide our time. Xiao Yan considered his words and spoke. Before he finished speaking, he felt that Shi Na's eyes were staring at him as if she wanted to kill him. Wu Shaoqi also looked up with an unfriendly expression and looked at him with dissatisfaction. But Miss Shi and Senior Wu also have a point. If you keep dodging, it will only increase the enemy's arrogance. So, there is no harm in using harsh means. Once he said that, Xiao Yan could clearly feel that Shi Na's murderous gaze had softened a lot. Wu Shaoqi also had a smile on the corner of her mouth. Seeing this, Xiao Yan could not help but laugh bitterly in his heart. You did not offend anyone. Grandma Shi helplessly shook her head. Xiao Yan touched his nose and could only reply with an awkward smile. Xiao Yan, there is something I hope you can help me with. After a moment of silence, Grandma Shi spoke again. There was an unnoticeable bitterness in her tone. As long as Xiao Yan can do it, he will do it without hesitation. Xiao Yan's heart shook. He could vaguely guess what Grandma Shi wanted to say. He took a deep breath and said without hesitation. In the following period of time, Chongming Hall might be plotted against by many people. Currently, the strength of Chongming Hall has weakened significantly. Therefore, I hope that you can stay for a while and help Chongming Hall get through this crisis. After saying that, Grandma Shi let out a bitter laugh. She looked at Wu Shaoqi and said, to be honest, it's not a big deal whether the Chongming Hall is still alive or not. But now, this little girl has come with the inheritance of Flame Lord. No matter what, she must protect the inheritance of Flame Lord. And this Chongming Hall is the last hope and the fortune of this little girl. Grandma Shi, you are thinking too much. Even if it has nothing to do with Senior Wu, as a disciple of the Yunluo Academy, I will do my best to help her. Thank you for your kindness, Senior. Xiao Yan will do his best. After hearing the meaning behind Grandma Shi's words, Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and said sincerely. Sure enough, after so many years in Yunluo, there has been a good seedling. I didn't misjudge you. Grandma Shi smiled with relief when she heard this. The last bit of resentment she had towards Xiao Yan disappeared. If you have any questions during your cultivation in the future, feel free to ask me. No matter what, you can be considered my student. I will definitely tell you everything. Grandma Shi looked at Xiao Yan kindly. At this moment, she truly agreed with the young man in front of her. Then I won't be polite to you. Xiao Yan chuckled and didn't stand on ceremony. Dongfang Yushao revealed a trace of white. The so-called secret realm of the Chongming Hall had been turned into ruins. All the elders who had passed out gradually woke up. When they returned to the Chongming Hall, they naturally heard some news that was hard to accept. On the other side, the news of what had happened in the southernmost region had spread across more than half of the Mingan divine domain. As expected, it had alarmed many major powers. The name of the Chongming Hall once again surfaced in the minds of many experts. Most of them were interested in what had happened in the southernmost region. The fact that the demon that was suppressed by the secret realm of the Chongming Hall had broken the seal had stirred the hearts of countless people. For a moment, the southernmost region, which was usually deserted, had attracted the attention of many experts. They had stayed in the Chongming Hall's secret realm for a long time, and naturally, they had gained nothing. Those who refused to give up looked at the Chongming Hall once again, and were shocked by the heavenly sovereign level's strength. Many of them had given up and left. Only a few of them secretly schemed against the Chongming Hall, hoping to obtain immeasurable benefits from it. This kind of thought vanished after the death of an expert. Most of these experts were emperor cultivation, and there was no lack of powerful monarch cultivation sovereigns. Every one of them had died miserably, and none of them had the strength to resist. This caused many people to feel a chill in their hearts, and their thoughts of the Chongming Hall to weaken day by day. After a stalemate of nearly 2 months, all of them finally dispersed. Shi Na, Forget it. Xiao Yan, you have ascended from the lower realm. Why are you following that girl around? Who can bear the responsibility if something bad happens to you? In the corridor of the 9 melodies, Grandma Shi revealed a rare smile. She glanced at Xiao Yan, who was standing beside her, and couldn't help but scold him. For the past 2 months, she had been tensed up all the time. Now, the crisis of Chongming Hall had finally been resolved. You have also said that you should give them some deterrence. Otherwise, I don't know how long it will take for them to retreat obediently. Xiao Yan shrugged his shoulders. In the past 2 months, under Wu Shaoqi's encouragement, he and Shi Na relied on their superb strength to silently kill the experts of several other powers. With 4 types of monarch flames attacking at the same time, even if it was the monarch cultivation sovereign, they would only die. There was no way for them to escape at all. Now that his strength had been fully revealed, he had the ability to kill the monarch cultivation sovereign. After the 4-spirit emperor technique was combined, it would become a great killing weapon that could be easily killed by an ordinary monarch cultivation. Don't think that I didn't see through your little thoughts. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to rest assured that they would leave this place. Grandma Shi chuckled and raised her head. I heard from that girl that you're preparing to leave these few days? Yes, I came this time to tell you about this matter. Hearing this, Xiao Yan said seriously. The reason why he left this time was out of his expectation. To be precise, it was a message from the Spirit Heaven Mansion's Alchemist Association. Li Daoyuan had personally invited him to the Spirit Heaven Mansion half a year later to participate in the alchemist competition held in the Star Domain. As for the details, they would naturally be introduced in detail when they arrived. The information brought by the Spirit Heaven Mansion instantly brought Xiao Yan's memory back to a few years ago. At that time, he had just arrived in the Star Domain from Forest Domain. Coincidentally, he participated in the alchemy competition in the Spiritual Sky City. With a 3-line green spirit pill, he defeated Li Zan and won the championship of the pill competition. He had also become a guest elder of the Spirit Heaven Mansion. Initially, he thought that this fake job was just an empty title. Never had he thought that it would suddenly have an effect at this moment. Xiao Yan also had a certain amount of confidence in his current skill in alchemy. However, the burden on his shoulders now was too heavy, whether it was returning to the star field or not. Refining the body for the blood eye in the illusory spirit space, or listening to Grandma Shi. Going to the middle domain to meet Ding Chenyuan was an extremely time-consuming matter. In fact, he had even listened to Grandma Shi's advice these days. Putting aside the idea of reviving Elder Yi as soon as possible, there was no good vessel. If he could not withstand Elder Yi's powerful soul imprint, the failure rate would be even higher. Even if Xiao Yan used all his strength to kill a peak monarch cultivation warrior, it was nothing compared to Elder Yi's past identity. The soul of a supreme saint naturally needed the body of a supreme saint to be able to contain it. He really didn't want to participate in the so-called pill competition. Although there might be some tempting rewards, however, he couldn't find any interest in this time-consuming task. Just as Xiao Yan was thinking about how to politely and awkwardly reject Li Daoyuan, the latter's tone changed. When he mentioned the prize for the championship, it caused his heart to tremble. All the reasons that had rushed to his mouth instantly disappeared. This time, the pill competition was directly related to the heavens. The top 3 in the competition could step into the heavens and come into close contact with the sacred object of the star field. Under the sacred aura of the sacred relic, not only could the soul power be greatly enhanced, but it could also be strengthened. Their own strength would also be greatly enhanced. Most importantly, one would have the chance to obtain the aura contained within the sacred object. Merging with the origin chi. This was enough to make anyone below the saint realm go crazy. The sacred artifact of the star domain had already reached the level of a saint weapon, and could even transform into a human form. As for its strength, it was likely that it had also reached the level of a saint. Thinking about it, if it could absorb a trace of the law of God, it would be a great opportunity for them in the future. Although he had used the origin chi of the ancient expert that had fallen countless years ago in the illusory spirit space to refine the 3 blood seals. It contained a trace of the law of God, but in the end, it wasn't pure. Now, he had the chance to personally come into contact with a true supreme saint, and he might even have the chance to fuse with the law of God. This was enough to make countless people's eyes go red with greed, and he had the law of God. Putting aside the fact that he could become a supreme saint, at least for someone who had broken through to the heavenly sovereign, it would also bring immeasurable benefits. No wonder Li Daoyuan's voice was trembling when he spoke. The benefits were simply too great. Apart from that, the rewards for the winners were generous. The ones who bore the brunt of it were naturally the prefecture master and the alchemist guild. I'm afraid that everyone will be tempted by these conditions. Upon hearing Xiao Yan's words, Grandma Shi couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. She then said with a serious expression, "For you, this matter. This is also an opportunity. As for the matter of going to Middle Domain, it doesn't matter if you go there after the pill competition ends." After a pause, Grandma Shi said in a deep voice, "Furthermore, as far as I know, although the ancient sovereign has yet to make any moves when he moves into the Middle Domain. However, the undercurrents of the three great empires are surging in the Middle Domain. Even if you go now, with your strength, you will still be in a very passive position. It's better to go there after a while." Xiao Yan nodded in agreement. Grandma Shi's words and his thoughts coincided. This was also one of the reasons why he had made up his mind to participate in the pill competition. In the past, when the pill competition was held in the Star Domain, although the rewards were generous, it wasn't to this extent. Grandma Shi pondered for a moment, then slowly paced up and down. It seems that the appearance of the Soul Demon has also made them nervous. Using the pill competition this time, we can recruit many geniuses. When the 9 disciples are in trouble, the Star Domain will have the strength to defend against them. After listening to Grandma Shi's analysis, Xiao Yan couldn't help but nod his head secretly. Those who could become alchemists must have a strong cultivation base in the origin Qi. If a war really broke out, there would be a shortage of all-rounded geniuses who could charge into the battlefield and retreat to concoct pills to save the world. Let's just wait and see. With the Starfield as the starting point, the other domains will probably follow suit. Grandma Shi grinned, but there was a hint of bitterness in her smile. Right now, the various domains had started to prepare for the worst. However, if a war broke out, where could the people of the smaller factions go? Xiao Yan pursed his lips and cupped his fists respectfully. "Senior, since the Yunluo Academy is your blood and sweat, I'll give it to you. When will you bring Miss Shi and Senior Wu back? It's good to take a look. When that happens, I will." Hearing the implied meaning in Xiao Yan's words, Grandma Shi smiled bitterly. It was easier said than done to make her abandon the Chongming Hall and the numerous elders that she had spent her days with. Xiao Yan nodded silently. Over the past few days, he had learned a lot of secrets from Grandma Shi. The thing he talked about the most was the formation. The monarch cultivation sovereign had the ability to control formations. Grandma Shi's knowledge in this area was naturally far better than his. After several days, she had gained quite a bit of experience. This big world is very interesting. For example, the barbarian domain, the spirit domain, and the sacred heaven realm. If I have time, I might as well travel there. At the end, Grandma Shi suddenly let out a long sigh. Her tone was full of emotion. "If I have the chance, I will." Hearing this, Xiao Yan's heart moved. In the future, he would bring Xuan Kai Lin, and Jade Fairy. This kind of scene made his heart flutter when he thought about it. Half a year was not a long time. At least it took a lot of time to get back to the star field from the southernmost region. Therefore, Xiao Yan didn't dare to delay. The second day after bidding farewell to his grandmother, he and the Xiaoao embarked on the journey back to the starfield. It had been more than half a year since they stepped into the Mingan divine domain for the first time. Although it had only been a short period of time, the results were enough to satisfy him. Has Xiao Yan left? The door of the hall suddenly opened and Shi Na walked in briskly. Her beautiful eyes were like ripples of water as she looked at Grandma Shi and Wu Shaoqi, who were standing at the top of the hall. "I just left not long ago." Grandma Shi nodded her head. Shi Na had been in closed-door cultivation these few days and they did not see each other when they parted ways. "Can't you wait for me to come out?" When Shi Na heard this, a trace of gloominess flashed across her eyes. She muttered to herself. She came out from seclusion and hurried over. She was still a step too late. "If Sister Shi wants to see you, when we have time, we will go to the Yunluo Academy. It is very likely that we will meet Xiao Yan there." Wu Shaoqi chuckled. In the past 2 months, they had gone out to kill many experts who had invaded the Yunluo Academy. As they got along, feelings began to grow in the girl's heart. Yunluo Academy. If Grandma Shi wants to go back, she can go and take a look. As for Xiao Yan, he has a wife and son. It doesn't matter if he sees them or not. Shi Na lowered her head and spoke gently. As she spoke, she turned around and left, leaving behind a beautiful figure. This little fellow is always merciful, just like that old man with the surname Yun. Seeing Shi Na's appearance, Grandma Shi helplessly shook her head and did not know whether to laugh or cry. 2 In the west of the star field, where the Green Lotus Sword sect was located, the mountains were as sharp as swords, as if they were going to cut through the sky. The surging sword chi wreaked havoc in the dark void, forming numerous invisible killing formations. Even though they were thousands of miles away, they could still feel the bone-piercing cold sword chi. Reporting to the sect master, Senior Brother Mu requests an audience. In a dense bamboo forest, a peerlessly beautiful woman with bare feet was washing herself in the clear spring. Her jade-like feet were like white jade, and her fingertips were moving the clear spring. Her every frown and smile was intoxicating. When she heard the announcement outside the bamboo forest, the woman couldn't help but smile like a flower. Her shoulder-length black hair fell down, and she was as beautiful as a fairy that had walked out of a painting. Then, she turned her head and said, "Let him in." Not long after, steady footsteps sounded. A man with an extraordinary bearing walked over and stopped not far away from the woman. The man had sword-shaped eyebrows and starry eyes. He had a handsome expression and gently cupped his fists towards the woman. He said in a dignified manner, "Greetings, Sect Master Tang. All right, there are no outsiders here. You don't have to treat them as outsiders." The corners of the woman's mouth curled up slightly and she stuck out her tongue mischievously. She did not have the slightest bit of solemnity as a sect master. The internal order of the sect is strict, so disciples do not dare to act rashly. Mu Yuyang helplessly smiled and his tone was still respectful. Tang Weilan occasionally revealed the appearance of a young female which made him not know whether to laugh or cry. "That's enough. Look at how scared you are." Tang Weilan lightly curled her lips when she heard this. She rolled her eyes at Mu Yuyang and got up from the ground. She walked to Mu Yuyang's side with bare feet and looked at the young man who was slightly taller than her. Her beautiful eyes could not hide the joy in them. "You have been here for a period of time. It is time to go back and take a look. Therefore, I will approve this leave." Tang Weilan patted Mu Yuyang's shoulder. Her eyes were like crescent moons and she looked like a little girl. Who would have thought that she was the master of a sect who mainly used killing sword chi? A few months ago, she used this excuse to let Mu Yuyang become her disciple. Therefore, no matter where the latter went, she could only tell him personally. This daughter's feelings were usually indescribable, causing her to see Mu Yuyang every time. And the latter was not a blockhead. In the Yun Luo Academy, he focused on cultivation, not only because he wanted to be one of the top students in the realm and valley, but also because he wanted to be one of the top students in the realm and valley. Therefore, other than Mu Yiyue, he also wanted to prove himself in the 4 academies competition. His heart had always been sealed. And here, Tang Weilan's care for him had also made his cold heart. For the first time, his heart beat a little. This kind of tacit understanding took root in their hearts. Although they did not express it, it was better than saying anything. "Oh right, ever since I went to the Yun Luo Academy that time, I haven't seen Mu Yiyue for a long time. Say hello to her for me." Tang Weilan smiled sweetly. The charm that she unintentionally revealed was very tempting. "Okay." Mu Yuyang gently smiled. He looked at Tang Weilan's eyes, which were as beautiful as the stars, and his fiery heart moved slightly. He immediately recovered his senses and softly said, "In that case, this disciple will take his leave. Initially, I wanted to accompany you, but the matters of the sect are too complicated. You have to be careful. The current situation in the star field is too complicated." Tang Weilan nodded her head lightly. A charming smile hung on the corner of her mouth. She reminded Mu Yuyang in detail like a wife to a husband who had left home. "Don't worry." Mu Yuyang revealed a warm smile. Although his current strength was not at the top, it was enough to ensure his safety. "With the help of the transportation array in every city, with my current speed, it will only take me half a month to travel from the Yun Luo Academy to the Spirit Heaven Mansion. There is still half a year until the pill competition arrives. I should take this opportunity to return to the Yun Luo Academy and settle the matter in the illusory spirit space." After returning to the star domain, Xiao Yan had a clear plan. He and the Xiao Ao were going in the direction of the Yun Luo Academy. With the monarch's skill, he flew like a shooting star towards the moon. Currently, his origin chi was extremely powerful, and the Starlight's silent step was only used to travel. It wouldn't take much for him to travel. In just half a day's time, he had arrived at the first city with the transportation array. Although the Mingan Divine Domain and Star Moon Spirit Domain were adjacent to each other, the local customs were very different. They were like two different worlds, causing Xiao Yan to feel a sense of familiarity in his heart. At the same time, he also had a greater understanding of what Grandma Shi had said. When we find Xiao, it will be a good thing for our family to travel all over the world. He muttered to himself in his heart. Xiao Yan's eyes couldn't help but be filled with excitement. This time, the pill competition had to take the lead no matter what. If they could enter the heavens, they might be able to find out what the purple chi that made Xiao disappear was. The Thundercloud clan has become more and more arrogant. For the sake of the Thunder Emperor sword, they have caused a storm in the entire region. Many small powers have been destroyed because of it. A few days ago, a sect that was close to the Xiao clan was slaughtered. This is obviously a demonstration of their power to the Xiao clan. Xiao Yan entered the Star Domain from the southernmost part of the Mingan Divine Domain. He had come all the way here from the territory of the Zhou clan. He had heard a lot of rumors in many cities, and he couldn't help but be shocked. When they left the Star Domain, he and Xiao Tianyi had wreaked havoc in the Thundercloud City, causing the Lightning Emperor's sword of the Thundercloud clan to be seized by Xiao Tianyi. Adding the incident with the great profound strong wind thunder, he had long thought that the Thundercloud clan would make a big fuss, but he didn't expect that it would continue for so long. Up until now, the Xiao clan hadn't reacted to the madness of the Thundercloud clan. Although they were all from the four major families, the Xiao clan's strength was the weakest among the four major powers. Next was the Zhou clan. It was said that the Heaven clan had a mysterious and unfathomable connection with the Heaven. The Sang clan, needless to say, originated from Sang Yu's reputation. The latter had made a name for himself in the battle domain. Even Shen Shuiwei, the young master of the bright divine domain, was afraid of him. Not to mention the numerous major powers in the Star Domain. The strength of the Zhou clan wasn't much stronger than the Xiao clan, but the advantage was its geographical location. It was almost half of the Star Domain away from the Thundercloud clan. The latter couldn't be bothered with it for a while, so the Xiao clan that was closer to them had undoubtedly become the whetstone for the Thundercloud clan to rise to the top. Perhaps because they were in the same boat, the people of the Zhou clan were paying more attention to the matters of the Xiao clan. After listening to the conversation in a tavern in an ordinary small city for a while, they could roughly understand the recent masterpieces of the Thundercloud clan toward the Xiao clan. The Thundercloud clan is challenging the fury of the entire star field. The Kangs and Sang Yu are watching from the sidelines. It's obvious that they have found some clues, or rather, they want to change the distribution of power in the star field. In Fighting Qi Continent, Xiao Yan had a deep understanding of the different powers, which was also applicable here. Each of the major powers had their own plans. For the Sang clan and the Blue race, perhaps the two families had already known about the existence of the Soul Demon. At this moment, they were deliberately hiding their strength and had no intention to participate in this matter. The bitter wine entered his throat and made his heart ache. Although Xiao Yan didn't have any feelings towards the Xiao clan, however, listening to all the evil deeds that the Thundercloud clan had done to the Xiao clan made him feel frustrated and angry. At this moment, he thought of Xiao Tianyi instead. He really hoped that this guy would suddenly appear and stir up the entire Thundercloud clan with his own strength. He stole the great profound strong wind thunder for the first time and seized the Thunder Emperor's sword for the second time. Next time, it would be best for him to steal the woman of the Thundercloud clan's patriarch. While thinking fiercely, Xiao Yan gulped down the wine in his cup. However, his mind was moving quickly. Great Elder isn't a tolerant person. The Xiao clan has been forced to do this, but they haven't fought back for such a long time. Could it be that something bad has happened to their clan? 2 inches. The Xiao clan has a very deep foundation. Even if the Thundercloud clan wants to use this opportunity to rise to the top, they won't be able to do it in a short period of time. Perhaps, they are preparing for a bigger scheme. After thinking for a while, Xiao Yan felt slightly relieved. He shook his head. He didn't want to get involved in this kind of internal strife. However, he didn't have a good impression of the Thundercloud clan. If he encountered them, he wouldn't mind killing a few of them. During the time of the 4 Academies competition, the young generation of Thundercloud clan had participated in the Southern Sky Academy. The fight had also brought him some trouble. At that time, the ambition of the Thundercloud clan had been exposed. Today, they had finally shown it without any fear. When the sky fell, there would always be a tall mountain to support it. No matter how the situation in the star domain changed, there would always be the heaven to suppress it. No matter how crazy the Thundercloud clan was, could they still use this as an excuse to cause a bloody storm in the entire star domain? After figuring this out, Xiao Yan let go of the trace of uneasiness in his heart. The Thundercloud clan could only be regarded as a clown after all. They took advantage of this period of time to jump up and down. The other major powers chose to turn a blind eye to this. They were all accumulating their strength. In order to deal with the impending disaster, the great elder of the Xiao clan was a smart man. It was impossible for him to miss this point. Xiao Yan didn't spend too much time in Zhou Clan Prefecture. With the help of the transportation array in every city, he kept rushing towards Yunluo Academy. In just half a year's time, he couldn't afford to waste any of his time. In this kind of continuous journey, Xiao Yan arrived at the capital of chaos in less than half a month's time. Now that he had arrived at this place, he naturally didn't need to be afraid of anything. After confirming the direction of the Yunluo Academy, he swaggered away like a rainbow. Profound Emperor must have returned a long time ago. I wonder if he has made any progress. Looking at the mountains that flashed past, Xiao Yan could not help but mutter softly. When the Mingan divine domain was separated from the former, Profound Emperor had made a bold statement. With the complete Yin scroll and the Yang scroll, he would definitely be able to fully comprehend the Yin-Yang profound art. It would not be difficult for him to step into the Heavenly Sovereign. Now, if everything went smoothly, Profound Emperor should have broken through to the Heavenly Sovereign by now. Although Heaven Surmounting Monarch can't tell the exact strength of Heaven Surmounting Monarch, it's too mysterious. With his strength, I'm afraid he can handle a Heavenly Sovereign. As his mind was filled with wild thoughts, Xiao Yan's speed gradually slowed down. With a flash, he landed on top of a mountain. Looking around, he couldn't help but feel a little dazed. This was the place where he and Mu Yuyang had teamed up to fight the enemy for the first time. The Silver Moon Mountain had obtained a trace of blood essence from the Dark Golden Beast in order to cultivate the profound martial arts. After such a long time, that little Dark Golden Beast should have grown up as well. With a thought, Xiao Yan recalled the young Dark Golden Beast that he had just given birth to. It was precisely because of the young Dark Golden Beast that they were lucky enough to obtain a trace of blood essence. As he thought about it, Xiao Yan sneered, then turned around and looked behind him. 2 middle-aged men with almost identical appearances quietly landed on the ground. Both of their faces were pale and bloodless. It was likely that they had cultivated a strange cultivation technique that caused the aura of death to linger between their brows. The aura that radiated from their bodies was rather frightening. What business do you two have? After returning to Capital of Chaos, Xiao Yan felt much more relaxed. It was the Silver Moon Mountain again, and it had given him a pleasant time to chat with these 2 men. While he was talking, he also had some doubts in his heart. Could it be that he looked like a piece of bone that was easy to chew? How could he be targeted so easily? Sir, the qi and blood in your body is very rich, which is rare. This is the first time that we have seen you in the Capital of Chaos. That's why we were so happy to see you, so we couldn't help but follow you. The man on the left was the first to speak. He revealed a ferocious smile, but his tone was incomparably sinister. An inexplicable cold aura pervaded the air, causing people to feel cold all over and feel dizzy. Xiao Yan suddenly woke up. The underestimation in his heart instantly vanished. These 2 people were strangely tense. Just by talking, they could make people lose the desire to fight, as if they were going to fall asleep at any time. Happy to see a hunter? The monarch flame in his body was surging, blocking the cold qi that entered his body and maintaining the clarity in his mind. Xiao Yan looked at the pale faces of these 2 people and said with a frown, "You two, want to suck my blood?" In the many ancient books, there was no lack of cultivation techniques that could increase one's strength by absorbing other people's blood. The types of origin qis in these types of people were naturally different from ordinary people. Up until now, there were yin-type origin qis and yang-type origin qis. Yin and yang merged with the origin qi. He had even seen spatial-type origin qis before. This was the first time he had seen a blood source energy. That's right, the man who spoke earlier licked his lips. His scarlet tongue was like a poisonous snake, and his eyes were filled with a beast-like luster. He looked at Xiao Yan as if he was looking at delicious food. What a disgusting skill. Xiao Yan couldn't help but frown when his thoughts were confirmed. Using other people's blood as a catalyst to increase his own strength. Although it was one of the faster paths among thousands of cultivation techniques, he instinctively rejected this kind of cultivation technique. How can it be disgusting? With the mixing of our blood, what we exchanged for is an even stronger power. The man revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. It gave off a nauseating smell that was like fresh blood. Wherever the smell passed, the plants would dry up and the ground would split open. There were no longer any living creatures within a few dozen li. Boom! Without saying another word, Xiao Yan strode forward. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in front of the man. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and punched out with the silent sky fist. It exploded the air and brought about a whimper. He really did not want to hear the man babbling. Both of them were at the peak of the Emperor cultivation, and with his current strength, he could punch them one by one. Dong! The punch seemed to have hit cotton. Once the energy was released, there was nowhere to land. It was extremely uncomfortable. On the other hand, the man in front of him, who was laughing coldly, actually moved back like sticky blood, sticking close to Xiao Yan's fist. He was not injured at all. Clang! The sound of blood flowing came out of his ears. A blood-red chain swept across the sky. The blood on the chain was filled with a fishy smell that made people dizzy. Countless drops of blood shot out like sharp arrows, looking ferocious and threatening. Swoosh! The monarch flame on the surface of his body instantly covered his body. The drop of blood rushed into the flame, and an ear-piercing sound of destruction was heard. An extremely unpleasant smell was emitted from his body, causing Xiao Yan's facial expression to change slightly. The blood-red chain seemed to be extremely afraid of the monarch flame, and it suddenly stopped. Taking advantage of this short gap, Xiao Yan took a turn and instantly distanced himself from the two of them. No wonder his qi and blood are so abundant. This flame is really a good thing. Another middle-aged man stood in the air, his scarlet tongue licking his lips. His aura was astonishing, and there seemed to be a surging sea of blood behind him. A chain was like an evil dragon as it writhed within, corroding the space around it and making woo-woo sounds. Chaos Slaughterboard, Fey Blood King. Closing his lips, Xiao Yan suddenly spoke. After seeing their abilities clearly, he recalled their origins. When Yuve Mu possessed Black Nether Emperor, he had created a chaotic slaughter list. He had placed many famous people in Capital of Chaos on it, and marked them with a price. After killing the corresponding person, one would be able to obtain the corresponding reward, and the goal would be to completely wreak havoc in Capital of Chaos. After Black Nether Emperor's death, many major powers had collapsed because of this. However, the chaotic slaughter list had been passed down. Although it wasn't as open and above board as before, it had become extremely popular in the dark. In fact, it was even popular in the auction hall. The so-called Demon Blood King was the person who had been ranked first on the chaotic slaughter leaderboard back then. The serial number of the PS book group, 579,430. Welcome everyone to join in.